Now we are live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And let's give a couple people time to get in, because I'm sure for some, getting in the room is going to be a little complicated. But while we wait, happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome to the Cybersecurity Webinar. If you are in and you can hear us okay, type in the chat what you're going to be dressed as for Halloween. And as we wait for that, give some people a bit more time to come on in, hop in the webinar. Oh, Kevin's going to be dressed as something else. He's going to be the big bad wolf.
Why not? What about you, Angie?
Come in.
What are you going to be, Angie?
I'm going to be Eeyore.
Eeyore.
I'm going to be Eeyore.
You go from Scary Witch to Eeyore.
Yes, sir. Got to be a little everything this year. Let's see. People still trying to get in. I have an issue getting into the room.
Let me try that other link.
Mm-hmm. See if people won't get in.
Nope, I'm able to get in.
Good. We probably should get started and have this as a recording that we can then share.
Yep. I did get a message that someone else is having troubles getting in the lobby. They can't get in here, but let's just get us started and see who's in, see who's not in. All right. So hello, happy Tuesday, October 28th. It is Halloween week. This Friday is going to be extra spooky, Halloween day, the 31st. But today we are going to be talking about cybersecurity and how not to get hacked this Halloween. Right, we want to watch our environments. Bringing together two of the big pieces of the puzzle here, right? BI 101, Business Intelligence 101, along with App Direct. And, three big pieces of the puzzle, right? Because we also have our partner, CyberMaxx. With that, let me introduce everybody, right? Of course, me, all right, your technology witch, keeping you on track and making sure your business is running as should be with all my spells in my book, all right? In that book, I have all my resources coming from Kevin Lawler, my CEO, all right? With years of experience backing him up, I take his wealth of knowledge very seriously, all right? Our security expert, cybersecurity specialist, Tom Rose, dresses our banana today. All right, another wealth of knowledge, a great resource, and a brain to pick when you need to peel back the layers of security. And then, of course, Eric Posey, my Google product specialist with years of experience in Google itself. He knows the ins and outs of how it works, and he's going to give us a little bit of a rundown of our plans, how everything looks today in your business. And then, of course, Neil McCann, the man of the hour, our sales engineer over at CyberMaxx, our partner today, that will be highlighting and how they can assist your business throughout its growth. All right. And with introductions out of the way, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin. Kevin Lawler, how can our customers be extra scary this Halloween?
I think the point, Angie, today is to not be scary. So this is a little bit of a how scary are you question and kind of self-assess your environment. I did notice that several of the attendees here today appear to be running their business from a consumer grade email system. I saw some Gmails, some me.coms, and my impression is they're operating their business from that, from using that infrastructure there. Generally, companies that are people that are using consumer grade free IT email systems storage are generally very small businesses, freelancers, and or side hustles, as you see there. And that's the perception of somebody receiving an email is thinking of that. Yeah. The main reason for that is it is an individual service. So if there's any more than one person in his company, you've got security concerns. Any documents that are owned that are in the system are owned by that individual. So when that individual leaves, so does that information. Also, it's not your domain. So you're not able to change the routing of how mail flows. So if you wanted to run your mail through a secure email filtering system, you're not able to do that, right? You could with a professional organization. You can't set up a backup system in place. So if you have any kind of a litigation down the road, you really can't prove that that you have all your communication, because those emails are automatically deleted over time. So really, that's the pretty scary environment. If you're an organization, really move off the IT consumer grade, get yourself a professional email domain, and run your business like that. The second level of scariness is if you have an on-premise server, because really you are solely responsible for the entire security infrastructure. And as you're going to see here today, that is quite involved and very, very expensive. And that's been proven out through the adoption of companies that have really in mass have moved to cloud-based services such as Google Workspace, which we're going to be talking today. Also, Microsoft has an offering. And in that infrastructure, the company has invested, the main provider has invested billions of dollars in establishing a secure environment, and then allowing you as a company to be able to determine what level of security do you want to implement. It's a shared model, right? Do I want to force password resets on a regular basis? Do I want to have multi-factor authentication, things like that? So really, I'd ask you to self-assess, determine how scary you are, and determine if that's if you're comfortable in that environment, or does it make sense to move to a professional alternative, which we generally recommend our clients. And today's focus is primarily around the Google Workspace environment. So there you go, Angie. That's how scary are you?
Thank you, Kevin. It's always good and nice to know where you're sitting now, where your workspace should be, and how you're going to get there. All right, with all the tools out today. So with that, I'm going to transfer it on over to Tom Rose and Eric Posey to do and demonstrate our follow the wire exercise. We're going to go over some of the key tools and aspects of malware. You know, what happens. So Tom, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. That was great. A lot of information on there. Probably a little deeper than I'm even going to go here with this follow the wire, but we can always get deeper into that stuff later individually. So we know there's a lot of people on here who are sole proprietors or small business with maybe just a few employees. Right, so this is going to kind of follow that path. So typically what we have on the screen here is a home office. We have your normal day-to-day, right? Typical work from home environment. Maybe you have your router in place. It's a flat network, no real additional security. Maybe you're just using whatever came with your laptop, or maybe just built-in Windows Defender, not much else. And maybe nothing's happened in a few years, so you're not too worried about it. You're not really thinking about security every day. Well, today's a new day. It's end of the month. It's late, you're tired, spend 12 hours doing emails, you're watching TV before you go to bed, trying to get through all these. What could go wrong, right? Next slide, please. I wish I had a little banana I could like flag for the next slide. So here we are, right? So while you're watching YouTube videos of people reviewing luxury vacations that you're probably never going to go on, and you're going through your emails, it just so happens that a malicious email has been sent to you, right? So normally this would be no surprise. You're vigilant. You're always checking for these things. But today, again, you're tired. It's late. You're just trying to get through everything. And we know that security is not always top of mind. So just as a figure here, roughly 3.4 billion phishing emails are sent every day. Just wanted to throw that out there. It's an absolutely huge number. Don't even know what that is across the year. I don't think the math can even go that high. So they're out there. We all know about them, right? So on top of these sheer numbers are just sent daily. AI has been making things a lot easier for the bad guys to craft phishing emails. They look better graphics, better grammar, right? Much harder to detect for the average person that's just going through emails or things that are getting through spam. So you may or may not be targeted, right? But regardless, these emails are coming after you. So here we'll see that being exhausted, right, and watching these videos and desperately needing a vacation, you clicked on an email, right? You saw what looked like from a reputable cruise line, sweepstakes to win a free cruise, and all you had to do was register. So you go on to a very real-looking website, You put in your name, email address, phone number, nothing too crazy, right? And you hit submit. But unfortunately, you were hit by a drive-by download with malware. So now your machine is infected on top of giving some information that is probably already out there, but directly into the hands of the people that want to use it against you. So here, basically, after you click on the email, sorry, the slides are so similar, I don't remember which one we're on. It's fine. Doesn't matter. So once you click on the email, your machine's infected, right? So the email went from the email server onto your laptop. Click the link. That malware has been downloaded onto your machine. And now it's not immediately going to just encrypt you. What it's going to do is it's going to search across the network for other devices that it can possibly infect. It's going to look at your smart fridges. It's going to look at your light bulbs that might be really old and out of date and not have any firmware updates on them. It's going to look at what other devices are on the network as well to see if there's anything that it can also take over. I mean, this is typical of any ransomware scenario in any small or large business out there. And this can happen just as easily at home, especially on a flat network with a router like that. So once that is done looking around, it's going to back one more. Thank you. Should be good right there. So now that it's done looking around, it's going to see what devices it can grab a hold of. It's going to find those Windows machines that you have in the laptops that you have. Even Mac can be infected as well. It's going to exfil as much data as possible before it does any encrypting. So it's going to just sit there in the background, steal all your data, keep it off to the side, all your customer information. And then from there, once it has everything it thinks it has, it's then going to encrypt the devices with ransomware, right? And then you'll get a message on the screen, or you'll get an email that says, hey, your machines have been encrypted. We need you to pay $50,000 to get the encryption keys. And oh, by the way, we have all your customer information. So if you don't pay us within the next 48 hours, we're going to slowly start to contact your customers and let them know what happened to their information, right? So now you're panicking. You just want to get things done. You want to get things paid. It's a really bad day, right? And this was all because you were tired watching YouTube vacation videos and you just wanted to get a break. So this can happen to anybody, happens every day to people. And it's something that we can actually prevent. So if you go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So we can sit here. So what could we have done differently to prevent all of that madness from happening? So many individuals and small businesses really struggle with cybersecurity because they just don't know what they don't know. There's partners like BI 101, CyberMaxx, Google, right? That after anyone who can, there's a lot of people who can help you figure out where you are today and where you need to go. But what can we actually do today, right? So there's some pretty simple things that we can do. Pretty much all websites, for the most part, allow you to enable some kind of two-factor authentication, right? That's the first thing that you should have across the board. Whether you're sole proprietor, small business, large enterprise, you should have multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication on every website, email, and laptop, possibly if you can as well, right? So for a laptop, think of like Windows Hello, where it requires your face, or Mac has Touch ID on their laptops, right? They got to put your finger against it to log in. So those are things that are going to prevent somebody remotely from being able to access devices because they don't have your face and they're not in front of the machine. If you wanted to do similar features, if you don't have a Touch ID or you don't have Windows Hello, there's things out there like UB keys that are physical USB keys that you can plug in, and you got to touch it in order for it to unlock using a multi-factor authentication on the website. So there's definitely things we can do that helps prevent if somebody did get your username and password, or if your machine is encrypted or infected and you have your password saved in a Word document on there that you're not supposed to, right? At least you'd have that MFA in place to then prevent people from accessing websites and emails and different things on devices that are not directly in front of you. All right, so that was a lot. There's something else we can do, right? Getting a good antivirus, right? Sounds pretty straightforward. Antivirus has been around for a really long time. But a lot of times the default that you have on your machine just isn't enough, especially if you're not on a business version of Windows with additional security. So by default, it's pretty basic. And if you're trusting Microsoft's default antivirus to protect you, you're trusting the people who are making vulnerable software to then also protect that vulnerable software after the fact. It doesn't make any sense. Don't do it. Get a good antivirus. There's a lot of options out there. CrowdStrike, for example, has released new SMB bundles. So they typically were in the enterprise space for the last 12, 17 years, whatever they've been around. And they now have bundles that we can quote down as low as 1 to 2 users. So if you wanted something for just you and a handful of people, or just your business computers, if you just have a handful, we can actually support those now with CrowdStrike, which is a really great product. And then what's the third thing we can do? So at home, for if you're a work from home user, sole proprietor, or even if you're on a business network where you're not doing this, if you have consumer grade routers anywhere, typically you can enable a guest Wi-Fi, right, or a guest network. Super important, because what that's going to do is it's going to enable device isolation. So anyone connected to that guest Wi-Fi typically cannot access or see other devices that are also connected on the guest Wi-Fi. By separating those devices, or separating your business device onto that guest network, you're now separating it from anything else. So all the devices that we see on here, your fridge that was compromised, your other laptops that were compromised, kids' gaming devices, people going to websites they shouldn't go to, those cannot access those devices on that guest Wi-Fi. So you're minimizing the scope of damage if a device does get infected. So that's a pretty easy thing to do. Now, if you're a small business and you're using a firewall, typically you'll have multiple networks, maybe one for printers, one for cameras, one for smart devices, IoT, right? Separating those really allows you to get a little bit more control over the network and who can move around internally. So then lastly, the last thing I'll add here is, you'll see on the screen, Google Workspace. Having proper business tools in place, like Kevin mentioned, really is going to allow you to take that protection to the next level. If you're using a Gmail account or an iCloud account, my mom still uses Juno, and she had 27,000 spam messages in her inbox when I last looked. We're just deleting the account. There's no point. But by having a proper business grade tool, you can actually get way more granular into the controls you have over the spam, over how emails are sent and received, encryption backing up. And Eric's going to talk about that in just 2 seconds. But really giving you the ability to add on even an additional anti-spam tool as well. Right? So we have a lot of options for that too. But Google Workspace is going to even take that normal Gmail spam and take it to the next level. So Eric, pass it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. So really quickly, Workspace is separated into 2 families. There's business and there's enterprise. And I'll kind of run through them pretty quickly. Business is your productivity powerhouse. It's built for 1 to 300 employees. And you can kind of think of the delineation really this way. Business helps you get started and doing the work. And then enterprise helps you protect and manage the work at scale. So if you're on, the business path, we'll kind of walk through that one. Business Starter is the foundation. You get 30 gigabytes of storage and 100 participant Google Meetings, Google Meets. But the most important feature, as has kind of been alluded to, is the custom branded Gmail. And that's not really just cosmetic. It's about 2 things. Number one, it's about trust. Eric Posey at appdirect.com looks professional and pretty quickly helps build trust. Number 2 is control, and this is really the critical one. When an employee leaves your organization, the organization keeps their account and all of the client conversations. So really, you control your company's data, not your employees. And then you also get the ability to have the admin console, which enforces foundational security like 2-step verification, that kind of stuff. And then you go from Business Starter to Business Standard. It's most popular first upgrade. It's really driven by 2 massive needs. Number 1 is if you need meeting recordings and the ability to save and share your Google Meet calls for training or for reference, you're going to need to move to standard. Or the other one is shared drives. On the starter plan, all files tend to live in a employee's My Drive, like the personal drive. If that employee leaves and you delete their account, all the files that they owned were in that drive are deleted with them. Shared drive really fixed that. The company owns the files, not the individual. So when an employee leaves, their access is removed, but the data stays exactly where it is. This is really one of the bigger steps for ensuring companies, data continuity. Plus, you jump from 30 gigabytes of storage to 2 terabytes of storage per user. And then looking at Business Plus, which is kind of like the most robust workspace plan inside of the business side of things. You get even more storage. You get from 2 terabytes to 5 terabytes. You get larger meetings, 500 participants. But the really big one, the big reason to look at this is Google Vault. And Vault is like your legal and compliance tool. If you're in a regulated industry or just have an HR department, Vault is generally speaking essential. It lets you retain, search, and export all your company data, even deleted emails, for e-discovery, legal holds, or internal investigations. On top of that, you also get advanced endpoint management, which allows you to remotely wipe a lost or stolen device, not just the Google account. And then enterprise, when do you take the final step to, upgrade to enterprise? When your security needs become proactive is usually the biggest reason. Flagship feature of enterprise is data loss prevention, also called DLP. This tool doesn't just archive your data; it actively scans your outbound emails and files, and it can automatically block an employee from accidentally or intentionally sending sensitive data like a credit card number or a social security number. You also get a full-blown security center for advanced threat hunting, and at the absolute highest level of enterprise, which is Enterprise Plus, you get the ability to manage your own cryptographic scheme with client-side encryption, which basically adds another layer of encryption that even Google can't access. So to really quickly wrap up on this, and then I think Angie may have a couple of quick questions. But to wrap up on this, it's really simple. You go from starter to standard when you need to record meetings, and more importantly, when you need shared drives to ensure the company owns its files. You upgrade from standard to plus when you have legal or compliance needs and require Google Vault for e-discovery and data retention. And then you upgrade from business to enterprise when you need to proactively prevent data leaks, either intentional or accidental, with DLP, and you require an advanced security and investigation platform. So it's not really just about getting more features. It's about matching the plan to your business levels of risk.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Tom, did you want to add anything about the absolute massive amount of applications and services there are to handle when you get to that level Eric was talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So that mid-large enterprise organization typically has upwards of 70 to 80 cybersecurity tools alone, right? Which is an insane number. Now, it's not saying that they're hands-on with every single one of those tools every single day. Some of them are kind of set it and forget it a little bit, but a lot of them do require tweaking and tuning to make sure that they're staying up to date and things are being leveraged properly and being utilized the way that they're supposed to be used. A lot of them are used to investigate, right? So this is about 42 different tools here that are very common in larger organizations. Even some smaller ones, if you need to meet compliance, might have at least half of these in place, right? So it's a lot. We talked earlier about sole proprietor, SMB, barely having email security in place, right? Now here's email plus 41 other tools. So we don't expect that every organization that needs security is going to be able to do it all on their own, right? We have partners like CyberMaxx who can come in, they can monitor and manage things for you. Depending on what you're looking to do, they can do tons of services, consulting, right? A whole lot. So don't take my word for it. We actually have somebody here from CyberMaxx that can go in and do a little bit deeper dive about how they can help you and your business grow and leverage the tools that we talked about today.
Thank you. Yes, Tom. Let's pass it over to Neil.
Great segue. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I want to add to the tool set there. It's a really good tool, patching. Keeping your software up to date, making sure the current revisions, it's less vulnerabilities, less exploits, and obviously can help immensely. But, looking at the slide, who we are, well, managed detection response, MDR is our go-to, as you can see here. Although we do have offensive security, that is in the form of penetration test, internal, external, gap analysis, tabletop exercises for ransomware readiness, things of that sort. In addition, we talked about complexity of our tools. So, I think of next generation EDR. Those are definitely difficult. The SentinelOnes, the CrowdStrikes, the Defenders that's out there. In addition to your next generation firewalls, Palo, FortiGate, Cisco are ones that we can support today with our SCM or security configuration management applications. In addition is the vulnerability management. Tenable, Nessus, having your own license, we can take over that exercise on your behalf. We're global, as you can see. We have quite a bit of protected locations. We have SOC analysts globally. although we can support our clients locally within Baltimore, where we have a SOC and we can do 24/7, 365 days of the year of monitoring and maintaining and basically mitigating threats on your behalf. So these are some of the verticals, although we do have a multitude of other companies out there, so we can help you as well. And that, you know, our you know, as far as differentiation, it's becoming a very crowded space because of the complexity, because of the various difficulty of detecting these types of threats. You know, ransomware seems to be the more apparent today. There's a lot of variations of that, but it's the response that we support. We refer to as the big R, right? The remediation of those threats, our ability to respond effectively. So utilizing tools that are essentially your tools. We like to go with the more mature type of EDR tools. I mentioned the 3 before, but in particular, it's all our ability to see the threat, mitigate it, and we actually have some automation in there and a little AI. But you know, ideally, we don't want to rely heavily on AI in the form of detection and mitigation of those threats. We also have SOC analysts, but what we're trying to do is tailor those investigations together by, you know, whether it be a process tree, correlation of events, but, you know, those tell the story. But ideally is the mitigation of the threat when it presents itself. We want to tailor it all the way back to the root cause or root cause analysis. What is that? Well, it's the gap that the threat got through, right? So was it a phishing email? Is there something that we have to update the users on? Reading email? Did it come through the front door? The firewall had a port that was open, or an exploit? I don't know. But there's a multitude of other vectors that we want to kind of respond to and let you know that this is how it arrived. So we give the full picture of the response. As I mentioned, tech enabled. We want to be an extension of your team using your tech. Human expertise I spoke to, although we have automation, security orchestration automation is the key, I think, to help add custom detections. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I have a slide on that. Our proactive approach, also have a slide on that, is our continuous threat exposure management. And that really kind of gives us the ability to act as though we have the same sight as what the threat actor does, right? If you're being targeted, we want to know what's out there that they can utilize against you. And then lastly is the glass box approach. We use the concept of black box versus glass box. And why is that? Because we want to, you might have questions. Are we actually, you know, you're not seeing alerts or any tickets coming from us. It doesn't mean we're not doing anything. You know, in the back end, we want to give you access to a portal that gives you the visibility as far as vulnerability scans, things we're seeing, tickets, you know, a multitude of other things in our reporting as well. It's also important. So this kind of talks to some of our services, but this is more of, you might be familiar with XDR, basically everything included, but we do can focus on just the endpoint or email or the combination of the two, or in this case, this is definitely cloud related. So for Google, let's say we're supporting cloud, you're in Google, we can take in alerts from there as well. We'll have an API connection into your various applications and there tailor that to our SOC, as well as all, you know, if you're using EDR tools on those machines or virtual machines in the cloud, we can tailor that as well and help with the mitigation, identity, authentication, a multitude of things that we help prevent. So this kind of calls out our big R response, our continuous threat hunting based on the continuous exposure of various anomalous behaviors. We'll look through, looking for matches, because all the tools aren't going to capture everything. And that, you know, we'll look at your email, you know, as far as your reference to the filter earlier. We might get an alert on that. The SOC analyst will see that, and that could be from, let's say, an unsigned binary. That executable could be an Excel spreadsheet that comes in as unsigned by Microsoft. So that's suspicious. We want to look at that. So we might even grab it, put it in our sandbox in our SOC, launch it, make sure it does nothing malicious. URLs is another place. People changing inbox rules. Those are other things that we can help mitigate. And those are, you know, just some common ones that we help detect and do mitigation. Deception tokens, if you're familiar with the term honeypot, probably more likely, but those are things will stand up in your behalf. Maybe make it look like you're, server that's holding the crown jewels, right? So we can have that as a additional server that the threat actor might go after, and hence set off that detection. Dark web monitoring, I'll touch on that a little bit more as we go, but there's quite a bit of services around in support of you, so that basically we're taking on that whole support of the detection, monitoring, giving you the information that's right, but the big thing is the mitigation, our ability to respond based on what we're seeing, and have that conversation with you, because we are an extension of your team, and therefore response is important, but also ideally understanding what transpired is as important. But so I talked about the continuous threat exposure management. People use the term probably dark web monitoring more likely, but this is a newly coined acronym, so just another one. But ideally is where we want to profile you as like a threat actor would, right? We want to know what's out there that I could use against you. More likely it would be something from a data breach, full of credentials, passwords. Those are things we're going to look for. Going to Telegram, WhatsApp applications, those are where threat actors like to hang out. We'll interact as a broker looking for that information, share that with you, and I'll offer you some ideas of next steps to help prevent that. And that would be maybe just a simple password change, but MFA is ideally the best approach in that particular detection. Duplication of domains, that's where you have impersonation websites or some form of phishing, changing up the domain, to Kevin's point earlier, and or Tom. Those are things that are go-to of that credential, so they can change a character to look similar to like an O versus a 0, something to that effect. Those are things that will help change your filter and tighten it up a little bit so that those are caught. But again, is where we can revoke, let's say, a token, reset the user password if we see some malicious behavior associated with that in that detection. Let's see what else. Vulnerability scanning. So we want to do vuln scans externally. We'll do that continuously. We're looking for, if you're familiar with vulnerability scanning, there's a reference to vulnerability scan scoring, and that those generally start 1 through 10, but we will look for the 7, 8, 9s, and 10s. Those are the exploitable ones, and therefore, if we see a detection or port open on those public-facing IPs, we'll alert you to that, and so that you can either take that next step of closing that port or making sure that the revision update is taken care of on that particular device. Internal scanning, also important, so that we'll deploy a virtual machine, an ISO, within your environment or in the cloud, so that we can do credential vulnerability scans, capture anything that might be an application that's falling behind as far as its updates, again, being vulnerable. If somebody has a toehold in your environment, gets a registry key change, whatnot, taking over that particular application with that vulnerability is, apparent, and therefore we want to do that mitigation. So those are things that we'll provide a report on, and that you can take care of that next step in doing the patching. Let's see here. So as I mentioned, we do have a correlation engine, and that essentially what we're doing is you can look at it as a funnel, right? All that alert data, those APIs, all those syslog information is getting dumped into the funnel, and within that funnel, we have to have some automated based on the behaviors we're seeing based on the alert. And therefore, what we're doing is tailoring that together to tell that story. So let's say it's a ransomware WannaCry. Well, what is it doing? Well, to the point, I think it was Tom mentioned it earlier, you're clicking on some attached file, you're launching a PowerShell script, doing a registry key change for persistence. It could be going into getting privilege escalation, dumping an LSAS file, getting access to those hashes. Could be a lateral connection, but last thing it has to do to be fully applicable is where it does a beacon out to a command and control server. So those are things that we're going to look for, and that particular behavior could be a multitude of things, but at the end of the day is that where you want to stop it before it gets into encryption, right? So those are things that we'll take care of based on that watch list. We've devised a multitude of those, so you have out of the box native custom detections, but we want to layer another couple of hundred on top of that we've been able to achieve over the course of our 20 years in the industry. So you have that extra layer of detections and or mitigations associated with our application. And you can see here it's EDR, Google, our SIM will deploy as well as part of that. So just keeping you safe, this is something that you can reach out to Angie on, and that as far as follow-ups, I'd love to go a little bit deeper, show you our portal, the things that we can support you on. But as I mentioned, it's also the offensive side too, if that's something important to you. But
thank you, Neil.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome. I really liked hearing from all you guys. Everyone always says my job is boring, but I get to hang out with you guys and talk cybersecurity. I don't know. I think it's pretty spooky. We did have some questions in the chat, so I wanted to go back to Tom. You mentioned a figure, and I think they missed it. How many phishing emails are sent on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's 3.4 billion.
3.4 billion, and only one of those need to land, right?
Correct. Yep.
Exactly.
Thank God it's not 3.4 billion per person.
Yeah.
But it feels like we're getting there sometimes, because the amount that comes through is just insane.
Yeah. And then I did have a survey that went out, and it looked like Tom, Neil, you guys really covered most of the pain points that everybody was asking about, except one. What happens when a customer gets exposed or some of their information gets out there, and now you have reputational harm on your business because of that? Hard word for me.
That's a good one. Neil, do you guys handle a lot of IR and stuff like that with customers, right?
Yeah. So there's, typically where there is some form of breach, data exfiltration, or in your case, let's say information on your particular company, your brand, you want to reach out to the IR firm, right? And instant response, do forensics, right? So typically what you can do, we do have a hotline in our website you can call, but the thing is there is follow-up. And if you really want to get ahead of it, there's exercise. We do tabletop, breach readiness. So, if these things happen, what are those next steps? Do you have a playbook already configured? Do you know who's in charge or what, as far as, do I contact the news? Do I contact the FBI? Are they contacting me? So those are things that you want to be completely prepared for. So, spending those extra dollars on just an exercise might be applicable versus losing, millions of dollars on your brand.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just throw out there too that it's about the last number I saw from like 2 years ago, I think it was about 60% of small businesses that suffer a cyber attack end up going out of business within the next, I think it's 6 months. So if you're a small business, ideally you're getting ahead of it. My wife's company was breached. They did medical coding. They had to unplug all their machines. She didn't work for a week. They got back up and running. She was there for about a month and a half before they fully shut down. They couldn't afford the legal fees that they had to pay. They had to buy new computers. The cost of doing everything to get them back up and running was greater than what the value of the company was. So
yeah, never mind the cyber insurance; those are skyrocket. The costs involved with those, but again, there's things you can do and put in place that lowers that fee, because the cyber insurance companies will see that you're paying for an EDR tool, or doing regular security and doing the training, things like that. That kind of offset that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And then on compliance, I wanted to go back to Eric, because I hear from a lot of customers, oh, we have an archive, or we have a vault. And they get a little bit confused on retention and search and whether it's actual backup, So not only when they get hacked and that information is out, how long can they last without their information, right? Having a backup is important. When you clear up the service confusion.
100%. It's a great question. It's a critical distinction too. Backup is for disaster recovery. If you lose a file, you can restore it. Vault is for legal and compliance. It's not primarily for restoring a file. It's for e-discovery. Lets you find out, what did Bob say to our client in an email on March 15th, even if he deleted it. One is for oops, and the other one is for oh no.
Yeah, so the seriousness of the action afterwards.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And then we did have one more question in the chat. It's we want to take it serious for a minute. Let's make it for real. All right. Question from the chat is, I'm a small business owner. We're about 15-person marketing agency. They're on Business Starter right now, and they said it feels fine. You know, we can email, share files, what are they facing today that they don't see? You know, what's the action forward? What's the
yeah, the biggest like hidden risk really is data ownership. And I kind of talked about this very briefly in the shared drives explanation between starter and standard. But let's say you have a main client folder that's in, you know, my drive. Okay. It doesn't belong to the company. It belongs to one employee. So if I leave and you delete my account, you could lose all of that work. So by having business standard with shared drives, it solves this by moving that ownership to the company. So now the company owns it. It doesn't matter who leaves or who gets their account deleted. The data always stays with the company.
Yeah, keeping yourself safe. No matter if you're small, large, you always want to have that extra solution there, that extra lock on the door. And with that, I don't see any other questions. Did you guys want to add anything before I close out here with what our customers should be doing next after they finish watching this?
Give us a call. We're more than happy to have a chat about where you stand today and where you want to go, and you know, we can review what's in place. And if nothing's in place, then we can help you get something in place.
Right.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear. Exactly where I'm going. So guys, that's one of your next steps. All right. Email me, get a copy of these slides. It has our contact information on it. We'll get a call going. And, you know, number 3 on there is book a complimentary session. All right. We have the cybersecurity team here to help you to evaluate your workspace, your organization, where you should be, where you want to be. You know, take that opportunity, give us a call. You have my email here, but of course, with these slides are going to be posted, you have everybody's email to get the contacts you need to get this started. And then I did skip 2, but it sort of rolls into 3, so I should have made it 1. All right, request a demo. We have, you know, Neil over here from the CyberMaxx team, and we have other partners in security that are able to run deep web vulnerability scans and get a snapshot of what your organization already looks like in the security world, whether you're exposed, whether you have those open doors or unlocked windows where it's easy to get in, right? And then we can take our steps to clean that up so that way you are cyber safe. And then with that, we finished right on time, guys. So I appreciate you running through and giving a good explanation of what we do here at Business Intelligence 101, App Direct, and our partner highlight with CyberMaxx. All right. So I appreciate you all. Thank you. I'll give you guys the rest of your day. Have a happy Halloween.